First full day of planting 2023. I'm so excited. Let's get to the field. Alright, it looks like Pioneer beat me to the field, going ahead and getting seed vacuumed out of the planter so we can get on these test plots, get them knocked out. Oh man, look at those wheat heads starting to pop out, boy. It's looking good. About ready for the fungicide. Alright, we got lined up on our test plot rows. Fixing to load the first variety. We got 13 plots to put in. Just got all 13 plots knocked out. I had a load cell on my Delta Force go out, so I'm going to swap that out real quick and then get filled up with seed and burn through the last 100 acres we got. Well, after further investigation, I don't think I got a bad load cell. Looks like we got some hardware missing there. Missing the whole entire gauge wheel and arm and everything, which won't let this do the proper depths, and if it's not going to do the proper depth, then the load cell's not going to read. Looks like we left a bolt loose from our winter work. Oh well. Andy's gone to Bradford to give me another one. We looked around the field with that cover crop. We could ride by it 5 times and still miss it, so rather than wasting time on hunting for it, just go get another one. So meantime, I'm gonna get filled up with seed and get ready to go as soon as he gets back. Well, looks like somebody found something there. All right, everything's fixed. Yeah, Kelly found the closing wheel and arm miraculously. Found it the same spot. I think I'd rode over like 2 or 3 times and I never saw it. Of course, she's always got a knack for finding stuff. But we still had to go get parts anyway, because we also lost the bolt and then the special shims to mount that gauge wheel up anyway. So, but hey, we now have a real good spare, so if this happens again, which it most likely will, we'll have one at the shop. So I'm hoping that that was the problem with my load cell not reading right, and we don't also have to change the load cell out. So anyway, we're gonna go back over here where we left off and try and wrap this field up. We're on like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 acres, then we'll be on to the next one. Got about 100 acres to go on soybeans. Unfortunately, it's now like 1 o'clock and all we've done is plant our test plots, so it doesn't look like it's going to be quite as early a day as what I was hoping, but unless something else goes wrong, we should still be able to get her done. We ran out of seed just right up here, so go back and plant this pass up until we ran out of seed. All right, our load cell didn't mess up at all, so good deal, that problem solved. And just show you how good this hydraulic downforce is, all of this and then this pass up until right there, we planted last night and my seed hoppers were almost empty. Now my seed hoppers hold about 150 pounds of seed, and we just got done filling them up, so now each unit's got an extra 150 pounds on it pressing down. And you can see my hydraulic downforce right there. You see how it's got a lot more blue and stuff in it. You look over here on the scale, your blues and your purples is a whole lot less hydraulic down pressure on your units than what your yellows, oranges, and reds are. So that just goes to show you just how useful this hydraulic downforce that is measuring the load on each unit, I don't know how many times a second, but a lot, and then constantly adjusting pressure as you're going through the field to make sure you got perfect down pressure on your row unit to make sure that your seed is going down to the correct depth, but not too much down pressure on each unit to where you can possibly compact the soil and cause issues with your seed sending out its initial roots. Anyway, I know some of y'all, probably thinking in your minds, why are you messing with all this electronic stuff, this technology and stuff? You have a lot of problems with it. It's always seeming to cause you downtime or whatever. And for that reason that I just showed you is just one of the reasons. Yeah, it is more complicated. Yeah, it does tend to tear up more than what a straight mechanical system does. It can be a pain in the butt to track down. It does cost us downtime. But on the other hand, the abilities that it gives us when it is working right to make sure that we place each individual seed in the best possible environment to germinate, sprout, come up out of the ground, and send out good roots into a good environment, and make sure each seed is precisely placed in space. It does make it all worthwhile. When we're sitting at the end of the turn road trying to fix something, you think, nah, it really isn't worth it. But when you see the results of just giving your expensive seed that much better chance of success to be bountiful, it is worth it in the long run. And then look at right there, what I planted last night versus what I planted now. So if we just had the standard mechanical springs on there, there would be an extra, 150 pounds running on that row unit right now. Not only potentially compacting the soil, but also you got more pressure on your gauge wheel tires, on your bearings, on your disc openers, all that kind of stuff, which also accelerates the wear and tear on your planter. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's quite a few red blooms scattered out through there. And what you're seeing there is crimson clover. But I didn't put any crimson clover in this mix because I was going to soybeans. Ideally, I don't want any kind of nitrogen fixing plant in the cover crop mix, because if there's too much nitrogen in the soil is available, the soybeans themselves will actually get lazy about producing their own nitrogen, and could potentially hurt yield. All that crimson clover that you're seeing out there that's going to bloom is volunteer crimson clover from my cover crop that we terminated last year. So last year we had cotton on this farm, and of course it's the last thing we planted, so the cover crop has a chance to go to maturity on some of the species, especially the crimson clover. And last year, apparently a lot of it made mature viable seed that then survived until the fall, where it then germinated, and now we got pretty good stand of clover mixed in amongst all of our grasses. Now the amount that we got out here, will it hurt yield? I don't think so. It's not going to produce enough nitrogen to cause any kind of issues. And I mean, having that extra nitrogen, who knows, it might give it an early season boost, might actually help yield. I don't know. I just know you just don't want any you don't want any kind of really supplemental nitrogen out there because it can kind of hurt the early season nodulation of the soybean plants. But I am a big fan of crimson clover, and it is out here. And the best thing is, it didn't cost me a thing. It was completely free. Now, if I could just figure out a way to have that happen on my corn ground, that'd be the ticket right there. All right, just wrapped this field up, and my load still not showing any errors. So the problem was definitely the missing gauge wheel. It sucks we had to make an hour, well, almost an hour and a half round trip to Bradford to get a new gauge wheel, but it would have taken us a little while to replace a load cell. It's not as easy to replace a load cell as it is the gauge wheel. All right, this field is ready to be sprayed, and Andy and Kelly should be getting the sprayer loaded up. I'm gonna have them spray behind me rather than in front of me because in addition to paraquat, I've also got Zidua and metribuzin in the mix. Now the paraquat's gonna wipe out the cover crop, but the Zidua and metribuzin is a residual herbicide that we're putting down to prevent weeds from coming up. Now the cover crop in itself acts as a really good residual on keeping weeds from germinating, but we don't have really a thick enough stand to get really consistent weed control. We don't have enough biomass out here to get enough consistent weed control, so and we really don't have any good post-emerge options for pigweeds once the soybeans come up, so we're going heavy on the chemicals just to make sure we have as few pigweed as possible come up. Yeah, the pre-merges we're putting down is Zidua SC at 3.2 ounces an acre, and then we're putting out a hot rate of metribuzin of 5 ounces per acre, and that metribuzin really works good in synergy with other chemicals on really helping them act better. So, and then once we get at first to second trifoliate, we'll come back over the top with Roundup and Prefix, and our fields, knock on wood, should be clean as a whistle all year long. Or at least they have been in the past with that combination.
That's about 0.6. Just got our 16.5 gallons of gramoxone in there. I got my 0.6 of metribuzin. So now we got to put 20 more pounds of metribuzin. 20 pounds, 20.6 pounds for a whole fill up. So one brand new case here. 20.6 pounds of metribuzin. So this is 10. We have 20 pounds of metribuzin in the tank, and now we have 20.6 pounds of metribuzin in the tank. And I put the grounded in there, 2.5 gallons, and that's what we're going to put in here. Nice green ground. We got to clean this tank here in a second. I'll set that right there for just a second. Let it drip dry out. Need 1.6 gallons of Zidua. Hey Siri, how many ounces are in a gallon? 128. That's what I was thinking. All right. That's what yeah. Well, I don't know how much of that video even worked while I was mixing it, but as you can see, it's all mixed up, and I'm gonna just describe what we're spraying. We're doing bean post-merge, soybean post-merge, or burn down.
All right, we're over here at Port of Cable. Now this bottom right here, I'm really especially excited to get planted today. because normally this bottom, at least this side of the bottom, is super wet because we got a nice big hillside right there that soaks up rain all winter long, and then it hits some kind of hard pan and it comes out of the side of the hill and just seeps down here into the bottom. And you can kind of see this slough right here where, you know, the water runs. You know, it drowned all the cover crop out, and normally this side of the field is just, I mean, it's muddy. Even like last year when I was planting cotton in late May, it was still muddy. But as you can tell right now, it's real nice and dry. I mean, heck, we're starting some dirt. I mean, no mud whatsoever. I mean, absolutely perfect planting conditions for this bottom. However, after the rain comes through tonight and tomorrow, you know, it's going to be wet again, and no telling how long it's going to take to dry up. So, you know, my seeds might rot, they might not come up, but then again, at least we're not planting them in the mud, so they do have a fighting chance. You can see some ruts right there where I had to come down here earlier this year. I mean, it's just, and then right there where Andy spread fertilizer last week, you know, just mud down here. And even right there, you know, the ground just a little heavy, but normally I can't even pull my planter through that spot. I just got to go around it. Again, the seed might not come up. It might need to be replanted, but at least it's got a fighting chance. All right, well, that's snafu of losing parts on our last farm. Before we leave this farm, I'm gonna do a walk around, make sure everything is still firmly attached. Yeah, everything looks good. Tell you what, you see all that you see all that dust on the planter? It's been a long time since we've seen dust on a planter in April. In fact, I don't remember if I ever have or not. Heck, I might not even have to wash my planter this year. Driving yesterday to get parts, I could definitely tell the planters that had started planting early last week, they had a lot of mud around the row units and stuff. Mine still, I mean, it's just got a layer of dust on it. Electronics still performing good. Haven't puked any oil out of the hydraulic breather. My gosh, I don't want to jinx myself, but I think we may have solved all of our issues. Our equipment is running top notch right now. So anyway, this farm's done. Got another 60-acre farm to go, and we'll have our beans wrapped up. So let's go and get to it. Well, the volunteer crimson clover really came on strong on this farm, and for some reason, I mean, this stuff looks like it's nice and green, producing a lot of nitrogen. That means it must have nodulated pretty well, and it looks like it's nodulating better and growing better than the cover crop seed that I buy, the crimson clover seed that I actually buy, and I have inoculated before I plant in the ground. Doesn't make any sense to me. All right, looking back to my down pressure here, you can tell we're seeing a lot more yellows and oranges and a little red. That's because the soil's definitely dry, especially the top couple inches that we're planting into. Plus, my seed load on each unit has reduced. We've got maybe a third of a hopper of seed, so maybe 40, 50 pounds of seed max in each hopper down pressure, so the hydraulic down pressure is having to compensate for that lack of extra weight right there. I tell you what, farming sure can be fun when everything's running smoothly, and it seems like for once things are running smoothly. I really don't want to talk too soon because we still got one more field on this farm to plant, but it sure is fun when things are working perfectly. How's this for an office view? There ain't too many people get the opportunity to be looking at something like this all day long. Yeah, I know I gripe a lot, I complain a lot, you know, I get frustrated a lot just by just a lot of the BS that happens to us. You know what, at the end of the day, when you have days like today and you see a plan come together, it's a really satisfying feeling. You know, I try to keep a more positive attitude on camera, but I mean, some days just everything goes wrong. When you had a whole plan together of how the day should go, and then by 8 o'clock in the morning, it's completely shot and you're just scrambling all day long to put out fires and play catch up, and you know, it can wear on a person. But while I do normally try to keep a positive attitude on camera, you know, I also try to, you know, express the reality of what we're going through and how it's affecting us, you know, both the good and the bad. You know, I want this channel to be real, to be, you know, what it actually is, you know, not sugarcoat anything, but also try to provide a mixture, you know, when things are bad, you know, try to show you the good in it too, even though sometimes it may be hard to find. But, you know, the first 3 days this week was just absolutely miserable. Well, the first 2.5 days this week were just absolutely miserable. Literally everything that could go wrong did go wrong. But for all the trials and tribulations we went through, this is how our week is ending up. And man, you just can't beat that.
It is now 7 o'clock. We've been busting tails since before 8 and just haven't had time to do any of this filming stuff. We're on our last farm of soybeans. Andy and I have been running around. We had to move the seed tender, we had to move the service truck, we had to move the water truck and the sprayer, just the two of us, and to the farthest farms that we have. Matt did test plots, and then we got out there and found out that Matt had lost a closing wheel. So he was out there looking for it, and I thought, well, you know, we'll get the sprayer out there. I know in previous years, Zach and I have done that before. We've gotten on the sprayer and he's drove and I've kind of looked for stuff, and I'm really good about finding things in the field. But Matt was insistent, like, no, I went out there and looked. And so Andy ended up going all the way to Bradford. Well, where we were, Bradford is a 2-hour round trip. So I ended up just walking all the test plots, and then kind of looked at Matt's Life 360 and found out where he was the night before, where he stopped planting. Because I thought, okay, if it fell off, it probably fell off around there, because he said he didn't have a problem until he started with the test plots. So I literally went and walked. I think I'm at like 18,000 steps now for the day. I went and walked for an hour and kind of just pinpointed where he was and looked on the Life 360 to see which way he went, and lo and behold, long story short, I found it. And the problem was, it was like, imagine like way out there. So I had to walk all the way back up to the farm we were on, carrying that stupid thing. And it was 85 degrees out, so it was fun. But I found it, so now we have an extra one. And I sprayed the first 2 farms. Andy is now spraying the last one. We figured we would tag team, that way he gets a little bit of experience mixing chemicals and operating the water truck, and I get to get back on the sprayer. So now we've done swapped out, and he's spraying end rows because Matt's still not done with this field. And then we'll have to move everything back. So move that back, that back. The water truck is still way over there, and we're gonna have to fill up a partial load because we won't be able to finish the whole entire field. I think we'll have like 8 acres left. So that's where we're at. Forgot to mention, this decided to be a punk. We get back to the shop and I just see oil pouring out right over here. And like, great, you know, now the service truck is toast. So pop the hood and come to find out, not only was there oil pouring out, and it actually came from the radiator, because this is an oil cooled radiator, the top hose of the radiator was about to blow. And this had been driven to Bradford and back, and then from Jackson to our house and back twice. So needless to say, it was really hot, and he's like, I don't care, whatever, we'll get a bucket. And we ended up fixing it, so that was great. Still a punk. So yeah, my day has been literally one thing after another, and now we've got sprayer issues. Yeah. So the sprayer has decided that it wants to wiggle back and forth. So you hit the auto steer, you hit the auto track, big open field like this right here, big open field, no tree line, and it just starts wiggling back and forth like this. And all of a sudden it completely jerks me to the left and almost throws me out of the seat. Like, you gotta be kidding me. And it didn't just do it once, it did it 4 times on 3 different fields. So I'm like, great. And now there's these error codes that are popping up that I can't Google because the green paint wants you to call a tech. But I took pictures because I might have to phone a friend or two. And unfortunately, I think it's electrical stuff. So I don't know. And now the auto track is not engaging for Andy unless we go through a system where we have to press the guidance button, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, and then you can go. So it's the first day of planting, and it just feels like everything's falling apart as normal. So yeah, that's what I've been doing all day. I just don't have time to pick up a camera and film everything, so I'm giving you guys a rundown on what's been going on. And it's just, it's been a show. It's been a show. And honestly, nobody likes our spraying content. Like, we put it out there and it gets really low views. So it just becomes mundane and repetitive, and it's kind of boring, unless you get the really cool drone shots, and then that's cool. But yeah, nobody likes it. So I just don't film it. Ooh, look, there he goes again, over the field. Just driving over the field. See what I'm saying? It's boring. He's just driving and spraying.
All right, we just emptied the seed tender. Had enough to put about another 35 pounds in each hopper. Pioneer's bulk bags, we got 3 of them. They come in 45 units per bag, which I'm putting out 1 unit per acre, 140,000 seeds per acre. So that's gonna give us enough for 135 acres, and we've got 140 to plant. But we had, I don't know, probably 3 acres of test plots that we planted this morning, and still got that test plot seed left over, so I stuck a couple extra bags here in the planter. So I'd be real close. Shouldn't leave very much seed that we got to clean out of the hopper whenever we switch over to corn. All right, let's go ahead and get this wrapped up. I don't think we're gonna get done before dark, but maybe we'll be knocking on the door of it. Kelly and Andy just got moved over here to this farm. Now, I'm sure you might be asking me, why is Kelly and Andy spraying behind you? I mean, they can cover a lot more ground than you can, a lot quicker. Why not just let them go ahead, spray in front of you, and be done with it? You know, won't your herbicide work better if it gets sprayed before it gets run over by the tractor and the planter? For one thing, I really don't think it'll make much of a difference in the kill, me running over it. But there is one little detail why I want them behind me. You know, 2 of the 3 components that we're spraying is a residual herbicide. And with, you know, the very thick cover crop we got out here, the residual herbicide is not going to benefit me if it lands on the leaf. It actually needs to reach the soil to where rainfall can then incorporate it into the soil. So what I'm doing by running the planter through there with the row cleaners and the row units is kind of parting the cover crop a little bit away from the row, and actually provide me a little bit more clear soil once the planter runs over it for that residual herbicide to actually reach the soil to where it can do me some good. Now, where the row unit's not running, yeah, some of it still does filter down to the soil, but the herbicide's not going to be quite as effective as where you can get full coverage on the soil. Then after me telling you that, you might follow up with the question, well, why plant cover crops? Are you're paying a lot of money for these chemicals. I mean, don't you want to get the full effect out of them? Well, I mean, in an ideal world, yeah, we would. But the benefits that we get from these cover crops outweighs, in my opinion, lower residual activity of the soil. Plus, this cover crop in itself is also providing good residual weed control because it's blocking a lot of light from reaching the ground. And a majority of our summer annual weeds actually require sunlight hitting the ground in order to germinate. So if you got cover crops shaking that weed out, even if the cover crop's dead, that weed's not going to germinate. Just like it wouldn't germinate as if you applied a applied residual herbicide. So, you know, it's little bitty details like that that can make the big difference in being successful and not successful. And enough of those little bitty details, if you pay attention to them and you get them right, can really make a big difference in your bottom line at the end of the year. And what I mean by a soil residual herbicide, generally speaking, some herbicides have activity if they're sprayed onto a plant and then they're taken into a plant that way. And then there's other herbicides that when the seed is germinating takes in that chemical and actually prevents that weed from germinating. It either prevents it from germinating it or it kills it as it's germinating. But a lot of those residual chemicals, that's why we call them residual, because we spray them on the soil and they provide a residual herbicide effect for you know, a certain period of time. Might be a week, might be 2 weeks. Some residual herbicides, you know, they can provide you good control for up to, you know, 2 months or so, just depending on what kind of weather that you have. But a lot of those residual herbicides, if you spray it on a weed that herbicide controls, but that weed is already up, it doesn't have any effect on it. It's got to have an effect on it if it's taken in while that weed is trying to germinate. So like Zidua, you spray it post-emerge over just about anything. And to my knowledge, there's not anything that Zidua will kill if you spray it over the top of it. It might affect it some, it might hurt it some, but it's not going to kill it. But Zidua, when you spray it to the soil and then you get a rainfall to incorporate it into the soil, is one of the best herbicides that we have for a broad number of weeds and actually keeping them from germinating, and it lasts a long time. You know, we generally see, you know, at least a month, if not a month and a half to 2 months worth of weed control from that one herbicide application. So I hope that clears up a little bit, you know, when I'm throwing out terms, you know, like post-emerge and residual and soil applied and all that kind of stuff. Uh-oh. I ran out a little earlier than I thought it would, at least on one row. Get up here to the end, we'll stop and check it. There, Andy, they about to get caught up with me on spraying there. All right, let's see what we look like. I got enough in there. Not enough in there. Probably not enough in there. That looks pretty good. All right, we're gonna go through here and check all of them, add a little bit of seed as needed. This right here is when a bulk field planter sure would be nice, not having to even out seed in between individual hoppers.
Remember when I said everything will go great? I spoke too soon. You see something wrong with the sprayer? It's dark outside. We don't have any lights. No work lights, no twirly lights, no hazards. We have brake lights and the front, that is it. So he is spraying in the dark. And our electrical problems are getting worse. So, what a fabulous way to end soybean planting. You can't even see. That's awesome. Welcome to Griggs Farms. If it's not broke, it's not on our farm.
All right, there we are. Last 2 passes, short passes, and one hopper just ran out. But we're gonna turn around, get this last pass, so about 100 feet. We'll have to have just a little skip row soybean here. Have a little test plot. What do you say? All right, guys. That's gonna be a wrap on soybean planting. A whole whopping 150 acres, which is, well, almost twice as much how many full season beans we had last year. Now this isn't all the soybeans we're gonna have. We still got all of our wheat beans to plant. I'll have 430 acres of those or so. Well guys, that's gonna wrap it for this video. Next video will most likely be corn planting. Not exactly sure when that will be. We're gonna let this cold front move through, see how much rain we get, see how wet it gets the ground, and see how long cold temperatures persist. But it's Thursday today. I don't see us planting before next Tuesday, so hopefully in the meantime this weekend we don't get too awful much rain. My chicken litter guy shows up and me and him can go spread some chicken litter. He's gonna be flying solo, so if we can get some chicken litter spread while I'm not in the field, I'll be running the loader, get him loaded up so he can get done that much quicker. So anyway guys, appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you on the next one.